Hello, everyone. Welcome to the January 18th Product Management UX meeting for Group Product Analytics. Let me share my screen so people can see the agenda and we can run through everything. It feels very much like more of a discussion-y conversation today rather than I'd like to see if we can get any actions out of this, because I feel like definitely we haven't got issues for some things yet. So let's get started. We've got some, do we have any sticky items from last week? We do not. Although that I did leave a comment asking Dennis if we'd created issues to update widgets to panels. I spoke to him later on, and I don't think that's happened. Does anyone else know if we have issues for this yet? If not, I'll create an action item.
I don't know. Is panels the term that we landed on then, or is it still being discussed?
It is 90% of the way there, actually. You know what? I have an action item to discuss this, so I'll leave that until we discuss it in more detail.
Okay.
And last week, as I said, we had no action items. I don't think we had any action items before that. Nope. So let's discuss the meaty topic of the left sidebar. Jan, do you want to make your point or vocalize your point?
Sure, I'll vocalize the point that you made. So yeah, Rob made a comment on the left sidebar issue with a proposal for a first iteration. I think it's reasonable. And I just wanted to see if we can get some consensus on it, or like a go-ahead, so that we can get started, because yeah, like I said, this means that we can actually get a menu item in, and we no longer have to go through the URL, so make it easier for everybody to use this, both in the testing our things and also for the internal preview.
Yeah, so reading through the comment, I'm fine if we want to promote this to an epic to make child issues to break it down as needed. Yeah, so let's go ahead, definitely add the dashboard tab. That's where we ultimately landed as part of this issue. Point taken about funnels and experiments, because we're not there yet. Are we not at the point where we know what we want for configuration though? Because we know we need cluster configuration at the project level, right? So why would we not want to go ahead and add a config screen yet?
Because we don't have one yet, or any of the settings or the backend configuration or anything else. So we would have a menu item that goes nowhere.
I see. I thought you meant we couldn't make the issues yet. Yeah.
No, we do definitely break these down. That's what I guess I'm getting at, is for 15.9, we can add that dashboards item because we have the dashboards page. There's a bigger discussion around that whole dashboards page and the onboarding flow and stuff we need to talk about. But so we can definitely add that. But then configuration funnels and experiments, we don't currently have pages for, so we need to hold off on them. So as you just alluded to, I'll convert this into an epic and break out into separate issues. So we can tackle these separately. In terms of my other point around, is it okay to have the dashboards currently behind the product analytics internal preview feature flag? Is that okay? Because I don't think we're linking up with Optimize yet, are we, for the dashboards yet?
I think that's fine for now. We might need to revisit it depending on what sort of timeline Optimize wants to start moving with, but I think we can cross that bridge when we come to it. So the product analytics flag seems fine to me, unless others can think of reasons why it wouldn't.
My only reason I could think of is that Optimize wants to start using the dashboard listing immediately. But I don't think that's the case, because we got.
Sorry, I'm just joining late. I had sound issues. I mean, if we know we're going to, I guess we would sync up with them on the timeline, and Sam and I can follow up on that. But would it make sense to just kind of generalize that feature flag, because we know they're going to want to use the dashboard listing sooner rather than later?
My concern is just the number of feature flags we're going to need. We're up to 3 so far. We're going to need a 4th just to show the menu item, which is going to be separate from the UI, from our UI. So it's that, and we haven't even had that conversation yet around what the dashboard listings, how it's going to look or function with Optimize's content included. So my immediate feeling is we put it under the feature flag, and then when we've had that discussion, we could then change it to an alternative feature flag or move, or it may end up being that we show the item all the time. Optimize adds their content and we move that feature flag to within the page to then render our content conditionally.
Yeah, so there's two things. One, it's not just for Optimize. We're going to move eventually all of the dashboards that are listed under the analytics left menu item are going to move into that listing. So ideally we could have that ready so that other groups can move their dashboards into it as well. And then second, I feel like that was kind of the reason why we ended up getting a little mixed up on feature flags when we found out that let's use an existing feature flag for application settings, and it was using the cube API proxy feature flag, right? And then we ended up having to separate that out, because that actually caused issues for staging and production when we were trying to connect to the Stack cluster. And we could have inadvertently like enabled the API for all users if we weren't if we hadn't separated it out earlier, I guess. I'm not saying that the same thing would happen, but does that context kind of change your position at all?
Apologies, I wasn't aware that the other items on analytics weren't all owned by Optimize. I thought they were.
No, it's a lot of groups. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, then I guess we can, but I still have reservations around our current existing dashboards listing, which is another topic in our list. Okay, I will create a new feature flag. I have no idea how we're going to remember or manage all these, but I will create another feature flag.
I think that follow-up to document all the feature flags we have would help. Because I don't think we have that anywhere for sure.
I'm currently doing that now, but our way of documenting feature flags doesn't lend itself to a table structure like that. And also, yeah, so anyway, I'll figure something out. I'll make sure the feature flag is separate.
I was about to suggest that we could also do like an issue or investigation, just listing out the feature flags, see if they're still sensible in terms of naming, what do we plan ahead, etc., and just basically take stock.
I would say they're all required right now. And they're all sensibly named. Cube API proxy, product internal, analytics internal preview. Kind of makes sense. And then the other one is the admin settings. Yeah, brain hurts.
So the difficulty is like how we would document that. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand that.
We put these in the handbook page, or is that not really an appropriate place for feature flag listing?
They're development feature flags, so I'm not sure. Well, because they're development feature flags, I don't know if that's the type of content that should go in that or into our documentation. Where am I? Well, I was actually working on this earlier. our actual user documentation for enabling and making this function.
Let's say here is like the product analytics development documentation makes the most sense. I agree. It's not. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I will. It's not a hard mission. It's not fun. We've done this before when we had the group access, and there were, I think, can't remember what it was called. It was like group managed accounts where there were 4 or 5 different feature flags and different toggles you had to set and a combination thereof. So it's definitely not ideal, but as far as I can tell, I remember just bookmarking, and I'm looking at it right now, bookmarking a Slack message that contains our feature flags. So I think that merge request right now, where you have the docs, would make the most sense for now.
That's fine. I worry having too many of them will cause us to not turn something on in the way that we wanted to turn on, or it not. Or if we want to start rolling out gradual rollout. If you try and do a conditional rollout of 20% on every feature flag, you're not going to get the same users all on the same feature flag. But I guess that's much further down the line when we want to start removing these flags. Okay.
Yeah, I think in terms of like, I agree with Jan's point in terms of kind of seeing where we're at, because if we have Cube API proxy and then the internal preview, I wonder if we can merge those eventually into what would be the into one flag or a customer preview flag, to try to consolidate and keep things keep the amount of feature flags to a minimum.
Yeah, that was my idea, and like first taking stock and then seeing what the plan is going ahead, what we need to change. Do we have a plan for when they are going to be removed, replaced, etc.?
I agree with that. Let me create an action item for that. Where am I? Am I on the right one? Yeah, there's a lot of comment topics. Oh, thank you, Jan. All right. So just to confirm, we're okay with splitting these out into an epic individual issues. We'll tackle adding the dashboards and a new feature flag item into the in 15.9. That will then unblock people if they want to start making use of that dashboard listing, although that is actually making use of it is a separate topic. And just to make clear, the main menu item, when you click on analytics in here, where is it? Mouse move. This one, when you click there, it will go to value stream, not to dashboards. We'll keep it as the existing functionality until I guess we can make that. There's a future discussion about once we remove the feature flag, whether we want dashboards to be the first thing that gets clicked, most likely. But for now, it makes more sense to keep the existing functionality unless anyone disagrees.
That seems good to me. Because yeah, eventually once all of the dashboard functionality is completed, the value stream and all the other entries there will be dashboard items, not their own sidebar items. So that's where we'll go. That seems good to me for now. Keeping the same go to the value stream behavior.
I'd even go to say is once Optimize moves their value stream dashboard into the listing, then it can just default to dashboard. So that kind of takes a little bit of the effort off of us.
Yeah, any less effort of me trying to remember all this stuff, the better for everyone. Right. I will update my proposal, what we've discussed after this meeting, and make those changes. Does anyone have any more comments around the left sidebar that they'd like to raise or discuss that hasn't already been said?
I'm good.
Okay. The next topic, something I've spoken with Dennis about, is the dashboards listing. With us moving to that dashboard, everyone using a unified dashboards, I want to create some issues and start that conversation with Matej around that listing and how they're optimized and everyone else is going to start using that list, whether that listing makes sense for them from a user experience point of view, because obviously it's not had any kind of UX taken a look at, and how we're going to all connect, because obviously our stuff isn't going to be dynamically generated, their stuff is going to be hard coded, and how that all works. Do you want to voice what you're typing, Dennis? Because I'm rambling.
Sure. No, that's fine. This is partially just because I joined late, but it seemed like we kind of touched on the fact that we don't have issues for the dashboard list in terms of what we need to change to make it more generalized. Is that correct? Like we haven't covered that yet, and that's part of this point in terms of having that conversation, or?
Yes, the last time we spoke about this in our one-to-one, Dennis, when I spoke to you about this, we said we need to make those issues, but I haven't had a chance to, and I don't think you have either.
No. I'm not opposed to like a working session, even with like, or not even, but like with whoever wants to attend to kind of just figure out, again, I guess similar to taking stock of what we have for feature flags, but like understand what we have for our dashboard listing and what would need to change under the hood to be more generalized. And then, of course, having these the conversation with Matei to let's say, I think we and other groups want to be able to prompt the user to say, hey, you don't have your group level project pointer set up, so your product analytics dashboard aren't working. But then Optimize will have their own prompt, and so we'll have to have a discussion about how we want to organize that so we don't have 50 pop-ups in the dashboard list when you haven't activated or configured anything. So I don't know if that conversation, I think that conversation will help there with Matei.
Yeah, I agree. And it goes into, as you say, with the onboarding flow as my next point around how we currently, if you go to the dashboards listing and product and assistance set up, it redirects to onboarding flow, which isn't going to work for anyone else. So we need to come up with another way, which me and Sam have commented before around the idea of using like what we did with compliance frameworks, where you go to the settings page and it says you haven't got any set up. Do you want to create some? And then it starts the onboarding flow. The only downside to that is something Jan's mentioned in the past around it being that's quite hidden, very difficult to pretend. We're not promoting it in any way. So we will need to discuss with Matei about how we surface everyone's work in a coherent manner.
Another thought I had on that, would it be possible for us to show the dashboard listing, include the audience and the behavior predefined dashboards, and if you click them and you don't have things configured, do the redirect at that point?
Well, I think it's sorry, this might be tangential, but part of it is that we right now have the dashboard locations hard-coded and we need them defined somewhere or pointed somewhere because eventually we're going to be like creating like project level copies of those dashboards, right? So we're kind of missing part of this flow because for the internal preview, we just kind of hard-coded it in, right? But as we move to customer preview, we have to fit that piece back in of how actually does the user, or how do we actually get those dashboard configurations into the project? And so I think part of that, an idea or the current line of thinking, I think from my discussions from Tim is like for product analytics, it's that project level pointer, whereas for Optimize, it's that group level pointer. So we could use that as a hook to say, hey, you haven't defined your dashboard repository at the project level, like do that to start your configuration for product analytics, which would then take you to that onboarding flow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Also, Sam, to answer your question, I think there is precedent for that in, I need to remember what the tool's name is, but some of our cloud integration in GitLab, like for GCP, there are tabs where the tab is there, and once you click on it and it's not configured, you just see basically an empty state with a button saying, hey, you need to set this up before you can use it. That is potentially a flow for us.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like we still need to do some exploration here over what's possible and what makes sense to do.
Okay. I will create issues listing out the dashboard listing and a separate one to discuss the onboarding flow. I will pull Matei in, and after he's had a chance to review and discuss, it may make sense then to have that sync discussion that Dennis is talking about, where we just sit down and have a working session with everyone that wants to be involved, just to try and figure things out, because I'm sure Matei is going to have questions and lots of raised eyebrows.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I realize that we've got about 9 minutes left, and some of us have meetings following on to this, so I'm going to keep this moving unless anyone has any particular points they want to raise. If not, we can circle back to both of these points next week, and hopefully we'll have had some decent discussions in those issues by then. Cool. The next topic is just to more of an FYI, but also something we should consider handling now. If anyone doesn't have access to that sheet, let me know, but I think it's GitLab wide. It's to do with the dashboard working group, where we're starting to define the different terminologies used, which has an effect on us because we've started using some terminology in our code base, in our schema, and other areas, and our UI. So a key one is the fact that it feels like panel is going to be the preferred name over widget across the GitLab product for dashboards, and we use widget in a lot of places. And with Optimize and other groups starting to make use of this dashboarding system, the sooner we rename those values, the less painful it's going to be for everyone. So it's more or less just a note that this is something that's going to need to take place from a UI perspective, but more broadly in development as well. And I should say that the items are not finalized. They are being worked on to be finalized, but they're not final. I think panel's going to be 100% finalized.
Yeah, I think we're going to confirm that in the next one. No, you're welcome. Anytime. I think we're going to hopefully be able to lock that in the next working group session, which I think is right after this call. But it seems like panels unofficially declared I don't think there was any strong opposition. I personally don't care. So I think things like panel, we can probably go ahead and get started. Just renaming. Though I guess that could be my famous last words, where somehow widgets wins over at the very end.
I don't think widgets is going to win over. I just have a feeling that the other strongly opinioned group is doing Grafana work, and Grafana uses the term panels, I believe.
I'm just trying to keep the 2000s alive.
WordPress for the win. Okay. Feel free to review that document. If you have any points or questions that you want to raise or other alternative namings, feel free to put them in. It is not a closed shop. It is open to anyone and everyone to contribute. We have a meeting after this to go through that sheet and continue to refine it. We've got a couple more weeks, I think, to get everyone in agreement on that. So feel free. And on to the next one, Axel, over to you.
Yeah, no, I can take this async. In fact, I can record a demo of what I'm talking about here. So yeah, in benefit of time, because we're almost there. I share it in Slack after the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Jan, did you want to vocalize your point, or did you want to go async as well?
Async should be fine, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add, but that could also be just added async.
Okay. In that case, then the action items to be completed by next week's meeting is Bjorn, you're going to take stock of the feature flags and an issue. I'm going to update my left sidebar discussion based on our points, and then I'm going to create some issues to discuss the dashboards listing, onboarding flow, and renaming some of our terms in our code base. Ready, at least for the ones that we pretty much guaranteed are going to be those terms. Other than that, I think you can claim 4 minutes back unless anyone has anything else they'd like to say. No, in which case, thank you everyone for coming. I apologize, I ramble a lot, which is why I don't normally do these. I don't be the narrator for these meetings. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and if I don't see you in the next meeting, have a good week.
Thanks, folks. Talk soon.
Yeah.